Imagine a well-kept secret location and a solitary miner in the bushland at the foothills of the Pyrenees Ranges. A solitary existence and the need for music exposed his lucky strike. The sounds of a fiddle started a new rush, and many were Chinese. From alluvial mining to the Union Jack Company mine, Percydale reveals the courage and hardship endured to unearth the riches below. Your curiosity will be rewarded. It is incredible the extent that humans will go to in the pursuit of riches. Our story trail will take you into the foothills of the Pyrenees, where pioneers and prospectors endured isolation, danger, and most often disappointment. It is difficult to imagine that a vibrant township sprung up to serve the needs of so many who came in search of a lucky strike. Expect to go where so many struggled, often in vain. Would you have endured? In 1851, gold was found at nearby Clunes, 40 kilometres from the present-day Avoca, setting off a gold rush to the region. In 1853, gold was found at 4 Mile Flat near Avoca, followed by the main lead at Avoca. The welcome stranger nugget was discovered buried just below the surface in nearby Denali in 1869, starting a new wave of gold frenzy. Reef and alluvial mining were the predominant methods used to extract gold. After the 1890s, more industrialized methods were employed. Caution and danger. Low clearance vehicles should not go past Story Point 5. The tracks from Story Point 5 to 8 are rough, narrow, and best suited to all-wheel drive or 4x4 drive. Anxious drivers should not go past Story Point 5. Walking is advised. See below. Do not undertake tracks past Story 5 if there has been a recent heavy rain. Walking from Story Point 5 to 8 involves a 3-kilometre return walk, a steep incline to the top of the Union Jack mine. Good supportive shoes should be worn. Take water if it's warm. Children should be supervised at all times, and pets must be on a leash. There are mine shafts, and this is a dangerous area. The Union Jack mine story starts at Avoca and takes you to Percydale in the foothills of the Pyrenees State Forest. It will take you about 3 hours. The weather will be mild. The distance will be 36 kilometres or so return, and there are some steep and rough sections if you are walking. Story points include the Avoca Cemetery, Daly's Cottage, Slate Dairy, Old Township Site, Decision Time, Fiddler's Creek, Union Jack Mine, Cyanide Baths, The Bail Up, and return to Avoca. Story trails are best experienced using mobile devices with headsets. They are free to download and share. Mobile phone users should enable auto-rotate to allow landscape viewing. How to use story trails. We will guide you to each story point along the trail. When you hear the fiddle, pause the video, and then play when you arrive at the next story point. Directions to your first story point. From Avoca, drive north along the Sunraysia Highway, B220, for 2.2 kilometres. Look for the Avoca Cemetery on the left. Pause this video, tap the screen twice. Park the car and respectfully enter the cemetery. To the right rear you will see an unusual burial design. Play the video to learn more. The most common feature of overseas Chinese burials is the burner. These brick or masonry structures serve as a safe place for the ritualized burning of spiritual tributes that serve the deceased in the afterlife. Burning these items passes them to the spirit realm. Whenever possible, the bones of the deceased were exhumed and sent back to China to reside in the ancestral burial grounds. It was common practice for those who could afford the journey to return to China to die. Further along the trail, we will reveal the significant contribution made by the Chinese people to the region. Directions to your second story point. Continue north along the Sunraysia Highway. Look for the Percydale sign on the left. Turn left or south onto Anderson Lane Road for 1 kilometre to Percydale Road. Then turn right or west onto Percydale Road for 4 kilometres. Look for an old house, elevated water tank and tin shed on the left. Daly's cottage is close by on the right. Pause this video. Park the car. You cannot enter. It is private property. When close up to Daly's cottage, play the video to learn more. Daly's cottage dates back to 1865. Amazingly, 9 children with their parents lived in it. The cottage is a great example of pioneer Australian home building. It was built from red gum cut by the men and smoothed out by the women with adzes. Bricks were handmade and the walls were lined with newspaper, hessian and wallpaper. Entry into the property is not permitted. Directions to your third story point. Continue west along Percydale Road. Proceed through the intersection with Susan's Lane and Old Coach Road. Pass over a bridge. In 130 metres, look for the Slate Dairy at the edge of the forest on the right. Park safely to take a close-up photo. Pause the video and then play to learn more. Ever wondered where slate comes from? There were several slate mines in the area. Slate is mainly used for roofing. Many buildings in Melbourne and Sydney are roofed with Percydale slate. Slate paved the footpaths of central Melbourne as well. Quarrying continues to this day. The dairy was used for storing farm produce, possibly beer, as the slate offered excellent insulation to keep the produce cool. Directions to your fourth story point. Continue west along Percydale Road into the Percydale Historic Area for 350 metres. On the left you will see visible evidence of mining. Follow the track, Slate Quarry track, to the left. To your right is a large clearing where the old township was located. Park safely and go for a wander. Pause and play. Alluvial gold was mined in the Percydale area, originally called Fiddler's Creek, from 1854 onwards. A fresh find and a rush in 1869 brought the population to over 2,000 people. The township boasted 2 hotels, 3 banks, 2 grocers, post office, police station, blacksmith and a dress shop. Cobb & Co coaches travelled through en route between Melbourne and Adelaide. There was a large population of Chinese miners. The Chinese also tended to substantial market gardens, supplying fresh produce to the region. Very early after the discovery, a small group of Chinese sank several shafts and found rich gold seams. The site was carefully hidden. They passed the news to friends and relatives in China. Ironically, the mine was later called the White Lead. Quickly, many arrived and disembarked in South Australia to avoid Victoria's immigration tax. They walked several hundred kilometres to the central Victorian goldfields. In the early hours one morning, local miners heard the sound of bare feet and wheelbarrows being pushed along the main street, accompanied by soft voices speaking a foreign language. When daylight came, the European population was surprised to see the whole valley below pegged out with large numbers of Chinese pitching their tents. Directions to your fifth story point. Continue southwest along Slate Quarry track for 70 metres. It is decision time. Choice number 1, turn left and drive. In other words, I am a confident driver with a good clearance vehicle. Choice 2, park, turn left and walk. 3 kilometres, return walk, good supporting shoes are needed. A steep slope is involved. Pause this video and go left to story point 6. Percydale was originally called Fiddler's Creek, after the miner who first found gold in the area. He kept the find a closely guarded secret. He liked to play his fiddle by the fire at night. Soon others worked out the secret location of the site, and a mini rush followed. The area was eventually named Percydale after the police magistrate's son. Directions to your 7th story point. From Fiddler's Creek, turn left into Fiddler's Track. Distance to story point 7 is 600 metres. Drive slowly or walk mindfully. Look for a number 7 marker post. You can park here or turn at the turn point on your right ahead. Pause this video. Imagine a hillside and riverbeds crammed with miners. Play video to learn more. Union Jack Mine. Once the clay, granite and ore was extracted from the shafts, look to your right and up the hill, it was taken to the puddlers to agitate the gravel and loosen the gold in it. The cradles were then used to separate the gold. Later cyanide baths were used. See story point 8 coming up. The dam supplied water to the puddlers behind the dam. 2 horses would be used, walking on the rim of the puddler as it agitated the rock and clay to loosen the gold. The Union Jack mine, look up and left, features an impressive open cut with many open shafts and an adit. The Union Jack reef was probably worked from the 1870s. The battery site and cyanide works appear to date to about 1904. Walk up the steep slope to the peak mine point. On the crown is a 30-metre deep open stope. At the base of the hill, west side, is a long narrow cutting for a tramway terminating in a loading bay, where a 10-head battery stamp would crush the ore. By 1904, mining had all but ended. Warning: the mine is bordered by a fence for safety. This is a dangerous mine site. Keep away from open shafts. Children and pets must be well supervised. Deep lead gold mining was a perilous endeavour. Danger and death was ever present. One of Australia's worst underground mining disasters took place in Creswick. On the 11th of December 1882, 41 men entered the mine to work a seemingly ordinary Monday night shift. In the early hours of Tuesday morning, water flooded in from an adjacent mine, trapping 27 of the men underground. Rescue efforts commenced immediately, but by the time the miners were reached 3 days later, only 5 had survived. The body of one man was still warm when it was recovered. Directions to your 8th story point. Continue on Fiddler's Track, up the steep slope. The Union Jack mine is to your left. The track descends to a turnaround place. Distance to story point 8 is 230 metres. Drive slowly or walk mindfully. You can park the car and turn around here. Pause the video and play to learn more. A more industrial scale method of separating gold was used in larger company mines like the Union Jack mine after the 1890s. Cyanide or vat leaching mixes finely crushed ore with cyanide salt in water. The cyanide binds to the golden ions and makes them soluble in water, thereby allowing the separation from the rock. Directions to your 9th story point. Return via Fiddler's Track to the intersection of Percydale Road and Susan's Lane, Old Coach Road. Notice that the southern track is named Old Coach Road. Pause this video and park your car safely. Then play the video once you have parked. Finding gold was hard enough. Imagine the anxiety involved in protecting and transporting it. Looking along the Old Coach Road, you can imagine the opportunity provided by isolation and bush to hold up coaches carrying gold. In this painting, Bailed Up by Tom Roberts, 1895, the leader of the bandits seems to be yarning with the passengers in the coach. In reality, coach robberies were often violent and terrifying. The most infamous gold escort robbery took place in 1853 near Heathcote. A coach carrying 2,223 ounces of gold was being escorted by police troopers to Kyneton. They encountered a tree fallen across the road and were immediately attacked by armed robbers firing bullets. They vanished into the scrub with the gold. The government offered a huge reward. A report that a possible suspect had left a paper containing a name and passenger information of a ship bound for England became the main focus. 2 of the robbers were quickly arrested. One robber turned Queen's witness after being offered a large reward, a free pardon and a passage out of the colony for information about the other robbers. 1 robber committed suicide, and 3 were sentenced to death and hanged in the old Melbourne jail. There is much more to this story. Search on the internet for McIver gold robbery. Your story trail has ended. To return to Avoca, proceed east along Percydale Road, then turn left north into Anderson's Lane, and then right back into the Sunraysia Highway, which will take you back to Avoca. We hope you have enjoyed the Percydale Union Jack Mine Story Trail. Has your curiosity been rewarded? Feel free to share this story trail with friends. And as always, happy trails!